This scene speaks for itself. If you're a fan of movies featuring giant plants that sing like the Four Tops, you know people called it Skid Row. Today we'd call it a homeless camp. And while we sit in our comfy living rooms watching Netflix, those people call it home. We briefly meet Charlie and Sam, and then we see this gentleman.
Buddy, got any change? Thanks.
That guy was paying him to try the new Cheetos flavor. I'm gonna guess he didn't like it.
Jack? Charlie, what are you doing? Don't touch him! Oh my God, it's Jack.
More like a sick caricature of Jack. Too bad by the time they get back with the police, the body is gone.
What? He was right here 5 minutes ago.
Sure he was, pal.
Hey, buddy. Forget about it, man. Forget about it. Sam, he was right here 5 minutes ago. I know.
I want to ask the cop what reason they would have to lie about such a thing. If you care about people, this episode is going to be painful for one real reason. It is now 33 years since it aired, and nothing has changed.
Barry Allen. Father Michael. A little far from your parish, aren't you?
Yeah, there's been some trouble down on the street, and I've been waiting to speak to your Lieutenant Garfield for 2 hours.
Garfield.
He's probably on a lasagna break. Barry works here so he can force the issue. Father Michael works with homeless people. In the episode, they'll call them hobos. That's not strictly accurate, but it'll do. Whatever you call them, they're people, and they've been disappearing, most likely murdered.
Father, I want to help, okay? But you know what these people are like. No IDs, phony names. They come, they go. That's not exactly disappearing.
If you could just assign a couple extra patrolmen to the area who could...
I can't put more patrolmen on the Skid Row detail unless, and forgive me for being blunt, some bodies turn up.
And we all know if it was an upscale white-collar neighborhood, he'd be all over it. This guy exemplifies the police attitude toward homeless people across the country. We don't want to be bothered. It's not like they matter.
Alan, look. So the priest was a friend of your brother's. Fine. I'm a church-going man myself. But you can't start an investigation based on rumor.
So you're not going to do anything?
It's a question of manpower. I got budgetorial problems. I know you mean well, but stick to your test tubes.
Sure.
Oh, and by the way, Barry doesn't need that crap from a bigot like you. He can get that at home from his dad. We're setting a kind of rivalry in the department between the Flatfoots and the Eggheads. I'm not sure why, but this won't be the only time we see it.
Garfield, you haven't been in church since you were baptized.
I haven't darkened the door of a church in 4 years, so I call myself a Christian, not a churchgoer. And please tell me he gets fired at the end of the episode.
The human race stands at the doorway of a brave new world. Through genetic engineering, humanity will soon be able to redesign itself.
That's Carl Tanner. He is every GMO conspiracy theorist's worst nightmare. He's out to push the limits of genetic engineering to places nobody ever thought of. Barry is supposed to be in that empty seat, by the way. He'll get there just as the lecture is ending.
Tina!
Hello?
Oh.
Oh, Carl, meet a very good friend of mine, Barry Allen, Barry Carl Tanner.
How do you do? Hi, how are you?
Well, how long has it been? When was the last time I saw you?
The UN Science Conference in New York 2 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Oh, Carl, my husband and I were all friends in college.
Oh, rivals, you mean? David and I were both in love with Tina.
Oh, Carl.
Oh, we were. It's true.
I foresee trouble.
Barry is careful to keep his relationship with Tina purely friends, but he's also a superhero and she's his lifeline. So he can't help feeling a little protective, even when it's an old friend slash flame.
The end of disease, birth defects, reversal of the aging process. It does raise some very interesting moral questions, though, don't you think?
Well, it's not my responsibility to be the conscience of the human race. I'm only a scientist.
I disagree. I think we're all responsible.
Well, this is awkward. Carl reminds me of that guy in Awakenings who came up with the drug that Dr. Sayre wanted to try on his patients. Sayre tried to ask the guy some questions, and this dude said, "I'm just a chemist. I leave it to you doctors to do the damage." Later, Sayre is talking to his boss, and the boss says, "Keep the status quo and let someone else do the damage." Nobody wants to address the hard questions because nobody wants to take responsibility for the outcome. Carl epitomizes that attitude.
I'm afraid I do have a very early appointment tomorrow morning.
Well, let me take you home then.
Oh, all right.
Barry has a bad feeling about this guy, and so do I. He missed nearly all the lecture, and now he's standing there by himself. He may as well get something out of this. Outside, Tina is trying to convince Carl that his work is dangerous. It's the same stuff that killed David. He says, "Oh, that won't happen to me." Isn't that what they always say?
Spare change. I ain't had nothing to eat since yesterday. $20. Thank you. Thank you.
That's fine.
That was nice.
He was hungry. Whenever I see a wasted human life, it makes me angry somehow.
Pay attention to what he said there. A wasted life.
How can you know that his life is wasted? You can't make that judgment.
You're right.
But he just did, and he's unrepentant about it. That was a brush-off, not an attitude adjustment. He has other things on his mind.
Well, here we are.
May I ask you something?
Of course.
If I hadn't gone to Tokyo that summer, leaving you alone with David, you think we would have had a chance?
Oh, Carl, I don't know. That was a long time ago.
Doesn't seem like it. You still have the same effect on me. Tina.
Always ask, you twit. And when you do, no is a valid answer and you will accept it with grace and charm. The problem is, now when she looks at her pictures of David, she finds herself asking, what if? He's got her so off balance, if she was roller skating, she'd need a pillow on her butt.
What's going on down there?
Okay? You would have stopped it by now. Look, everybody, be cool. We just came to talk. We don't want any trouble, please.
If there are any police watching, I want you to see how not to handle a situation like this. Watch and learn.
This isn't a town meeting. The people disperse now.
Let me talk to them.
What are you, king of the hobos?
Push him back, boys.
Push them back to where? Why don't you ask if they have a spokesperson and at least hear them out? Because this guy is just like Carl. If they aren't pushing a pencil at a desk somewhere 8 hours a day, their lives aren't worth anything.
not the way.
But what about Jack and Bill and Westy? They're gone, they're dead!
Garfield caused that whole thing. If he had let Barry talk to those people, he could have defused it. But too many cops only understand force and violence. They're more into asserting their own authority than serving and protecting. Garfield exemplifies that attitude. Father Michael will beg them not to hurt Mickey and release him, and he'll win the day.
But you get these people out of here, or I'll slap their butts in jail.
Let him go!
The jail cell's about the only place these folks would be safe.
I rest my case regarding Garfield. He thinks a warm, covered jail cell with regular meals is a threat to people who sleep out in the cold and have nothing to eat. Every time I see someone with his attitude online, I tell them the same thing. May God bless you with a year of homelessness so you learn a little humility. Because as the saying goes, there but for the grace of God goes your arrogant butt.
Lieutenant, mind if I take the priests, maybe a couple of the men up to the lab, see if I can help them out?
Suit yourself, Barry.
It's no skin off his nose. He has just as much contempt for Barry as he has for the homeless people, so who cares?
This may be the only opportunity we get. Sam, Charlie, I want you to tell Julio and Barry what you told me.
Okay. It's like this. Somebody's killing street people and making them disappear.
Are you sure they're dead?
We seen it. We found a dead body a couple of nights ago. This is a guy we knew. Yeah, only he was all messed up.
They can't describe it. Charlie says he wasn't even human, but the body disappeared, so they have no way to verify their story. And we've already seen the police attitude about that.
Tell him the other stuff. There's talk about somebody prowling around at night, offering people money and sticking them with needles.
Needles? You mean drugs?
I don't know.
Father, maybe I better come down to the neighborhood, check it out myself.
Come down to 4th and Willow. You'll find us.
Something is nagging at the back of Barry's mind. He's sure he knows Charlie from somewhere. I had the same feeling that I'd seen him somewhere before, but the actor hasn't appeared in any of my reviewed shows. It took me 3 times watching through the episode before I realized he reminds me of Rob Schneider.
Oh, you.
Yeah. I brought you some groceries.
Follow me.
Charlie seems overly cynical about Barry wanting to help, but he'll have someone distribute the food anyway.
Hey, listen. If you think I'm gonna lie down and kiss your feet just because you came down here, you can forget it.
Remind me when he asked you to do such a thing, Charlie? You pulled that out of your bad attitude.
Hey, I'm just trying to help out.
Hey, look around, pal. We need a lot more than help around here. We need an act of God.
Oh, there's no need to kick it that far upstairs. A decent, effective act of Congress would do it. As if a collection of pompous millionaires ensconced on the East Coast have any idea what's needed in a place like this. As if they care. Oh, they talk and talk and talk. The day they actually do, I may faint. You can probably suss out that this is a sensitive topic for me. Many of you remember Mark, the homeless man that I got to know who eventually lived with us for 3 years. Contrary to most people's assumptions, he wound up on the street because of 2 things: escaping a child pornography situation and a horrible car accident. Before the accident, he had become a skilled contractor, but the suspension on the vehicle he was a passenger in failed, and he went through a windshield at 70 miles an hour. Our delightful healthcare system used up as much of his insurance as they could, and then kicked him out with no support at all, even though they knew he was in pain that would send any one of them to the loony bin. Desperation drove him to heroin. Any car on the road today could do that same thing to any person in an instant, and their life would be transformed into hell on earth like his was. So if you're cocky about how you're so much better than those drug addicts down there in the pits, get over yourself. One simple car accident that wasn't even your fault, and that could be you. Father Michael tells Barry that most of these people have the same story, some kind of economic downturn, you lose your job, can't make your rent or house payment, and suddenly you're on the street. At least Charlie is enjoying the food. Sam, not so much.
Just stay away from me. I don't want nothing to do with you. Stay away. Ow. No. Hey, I know you. No. No. No, please, no. It hurts. Don't.
The same thing starts happening to Sam that happened to Jack. Barry and Charlie can hear him screaming. Yes, we'll reveal his face, and yes, it's Carl, Tina's wannabe boyfriend.
Come on, Mort. His face was all twisted and distorted. I tell you, I've never seen anything like it.
You sure we're talking about the same guy?
Yeah, he was found in an alley on Skid Row last night, right?
Oh, that's the guy, all right. Only, he looks okay to me. For a corpse.
Nobody has an explanation. He died of simple heart failure, though brought on by what, nobody seems to care. Barry asks for a blood sample. He's also figured out where he knows Charlie from.
Charles Wright.
That's that guy Charlie.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wanted a second opinion.
Yeah, did you know him?
Yeah,
He just looks a lot older. Guess it's that life on the streets.
I guess.
Well, I got that blood sample from the coroner.
Great. Run every test you can think of. I need the results ASAP.
What am I supposed to look for?
I don't know, Julio. Something weird.
I understand Barry. He feels like since he went up and Charlie went down, he's honor bound to try and do something to help. I went to Bible college with a guy who was beyond brilliant, especially in philosophy. He could have been a phenomenal teacher on the subject. A few years after college, he turned up in Denver where I was living. He was living at the Y, doing day jobs, digging ditches, and he was missing several teeth. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was probably doing meth. He didn't ask me for anything, but just hanging out, I had no idea what to say to him. I felt I should try to do something for him, but what? He disappeared again shortly after that, and nobody from the college has any idea what became of him. I know what Barry is feeling, and he's feeling just as helpless and clueless as I did. But at least Barry can ask Father Michael for advice. Father Michael says Charlie needs a job and a place to live. Barry knows how he can get both.
What are you? Are you nuts? I don't know anything about science and computers.
No, you don't need to. It's a night watchman's job. Look, Charlie, I spoke to a friend of mine. She works there, all right? It's already set up.
I don't know,
And there's a
man.
small room with a bed and a hot plate.
Yeah, right.
What? All I did was offer you a job.
I'm not a charity case. Yeah, I got my pride.
Yeah, well, maybe too much pride.
Look, I know you know who I am. Just quit trying to ease your conscience.
It's his conscience. He'll try to ease it if he wants to, so there. But that's not Charlie's real problem.
Look, I haven't had a job in years, okay? What if I screw up?
They'll fire you. Come on, Charlie. You made it on the street. You'll make it there.
Yeah, if you screw up, they'll fire you. But it's a start, and you can keep going from there. How often do we not speak up because we're afraid of rejection? We see it everywhere. I don't know if I should apply for that job. I don't know if I should ask that girl out. I don't know if I should ask the loan company for a little extra time. You know what I finally figured out? I may as well ask because the worst they can do is say no. And I'm no worse off than I was before. And you never know, they might say yes. If I had learned that principle when I was about 14, I might have actually had a girlfriend in high school.
I like it. Very chic.
I guess I better get those employment papers signed. Hey, Barry. Thanks.
Pride is fine as long as it's tempered by wisdom and good sense. Good sense like realizing whatever his motivation, he just opened a door of opportunity for you. Strike that. Run through it and see what's on the other side.
Now, let's you and me go get something to eat. There's a great little Japanese place right around the corner, just opened up.
I'd love to, but I've asked Carl to dinner.
Not just dinner. Candlelight dinner at her place. We could talk about mixed messages, but who knows? Maybe Carl will actually ask first this time.
I looked up one of David's old papers in a science journal yesterday. It's funny how close our lines of research were. Whatever happened to his notes on genetic reorganization?
Well, I have them at the lab. Why?
Well, I'd love to see them.
I'd prefer if you didn't, Carl.
David's research killed him. We're still not sure how, but it's enough for her to say absolutely not. I don't care what your reason is, nobody sees those notes. Why she hasn't destroyed them is anybody's guess. The subject is closed. Let's go inside and talk about something else.
Tina, you forgot your wine.
While she's unconscious, he pulls out a gadget and takes a retinal scan. My only experience with retinal scanners comes from the Splinter Cell games, where you either hack the scanner or grab some guy and shove his face into it. It's reported to be the most reliable biometric security device there is. It's also hideously expensive, isn't that a big surprise? But given some of the crazy, not to say classified, stuff they do at Star Labs, it makes sense that they would spring for one. He finds David's notebook and starts photocopying it. Elsewhere in the place, Charlie is enjoying his new job.
Hold it. Listen, the security panel just lit up. Looks like something's going on in Lab 7. I better call you back.
Charlie?
Barry knows that's Tina's lab. He's on his way. But even as fast as he is, Charlie gets there first. Shorter distance and all that good stuff. Now Barry really feels lousy. He tried to help the guy and nearly got him killed. Charlie will be in the hospital for the rest of the episode, assuming the Flash can get him there. That's a vacuum chamber, and Carl just turned on the vacuum. It's sucking all the air out. Didn't the Penguin do this same thing to Batman? I foresee this turning out much the same way. In the comics, the Flash would put his hand against the glass and start vibrating until it shattered. Our Flash has a different idea that shows off some more interesting special effects. How can you not love it? Tina can't figure out why someone would break in because nothing is missing. You'd think she would know the reason for breaking into a lab like hers isn't to steal stuff, it's to steal knowledge. But she'll figure it out. All it takes is Carl being a little sloppy. But that doesn't matter, he has what he needs. David's notes have filled in the gaps in his own procedures. And what exactly is supposed to be the goal of this? Whatever kind of monster he's turned that dog into, it's broken out of its cage and jumped out the window.
I think whoever broke into the lab was looking for David's research notebooks on genetic engineering.
You know who it is.
I'm not sure.
Oh, come on, Tina. It's Carl Tanner.
I can't believe that.
Well, look at the evidence. His arrival in town coincides with the Skid Row disappearances. And Julio tested one of the bodies. The bloodstream was spiked with mutating cells. What do you think? You know, you can't protect him just because you're in love with him.
As a different Garfield might say, that's a definite ouch. She doesn't want to talk about it anymore. How very unexpected. Police are getting reports of a dogzilla creature terrorizing the area. Our old pals Murph and Bello are on the case.
Oh my God, did you see that? Did I see it? That ain't no mutt. That's Dogzilla.
Get the shotgun. I'm gonna follow it.
Follow it? What for?
Just get the shotgun and call for backup.
Barry is still pondering his big fight with Tina when he hears Bello begging for help. He knows these two are the comedy relief, so he'd better get over there.
You all right? Yes. The flash just saved my neck.
Flash. The Flash?
Murph, I got your call on the radio. You guys all right? Hey, look at this.
It shrinks back down into a standard friendly German Shepherd. I repeat, what's the goal of this supposed to be?
I just got one question, guys.
What's that, Murph?
Who's gonna write up this report?
Since you brought it up, I have a feeling they both just nominated you. As I said, they're the comedy relief. They'll be recurring characters and they're quite enjoyable. And Barry has had enough of this. Tina is examining the dog's blood.
There, you see?
You're right. I can see the cells mutating. I've never seen anything like it.
I have.
Where?
Right here. My husband created them. It was the research he was working on before he died.
In other words, this has David's fingerprints all over it, and there's only one way that could have happened. Tina and Carl are in cahoots. Wait, that's not right.
I'm sorry, Barry. You were right. Carl used me.
It's worse than that, Tina. He's been experimenting on homeless people. I'm sorry, I've got to stop him.
Yeah, she knows. She'll stay there and monitor his vitals.
It's all over, Tanner.
What are you? Some kind of government experiment? Where do you come from?
It's time to turn yourself into the police.
No! No! I'm so close! No! No!
He tosses a volatile chemical to distract the Flash and locks himself in a closet.
There's no way out, Tanner.
If Barry is going to keep doing this, he needs to work on his ability to take a punch. I wonder which one of them is going to write this report. Before he can do any more damage, he starts reverting back into Carl. Remember, this is 1990, so that is not CGI. That's all practical effects, and it's no exaggeration to say they're spectacular. Bellows' next words should be, "You're under arrest," but he's not even sure he believes what he just saw. Plus, he's more concerned to make sure Murph is all right. I'm wondering how Carl thinks whatever that was is an improvement on humanity.
Carl!
I can't go back to the university. I need your lab. They don't understand how important my work is. If they catch me, then it's all for nothing. You understand. I know you do.
You murdered people. Innocent people.
It had to be done, Tina.
But how could you use human beings as guinea pigs?
Their lives are worthless, I know. My parents were just like them.
He always told everyone he was from a nice family with a big house and all the bells and whistles that go with being upper middle class. The truth is, he grew up in a tenement with nothing.
A lie. An invention to cover my shame.
Were they honest? Did they take care of you and make sure you were fed and clothed? Did they love you? Did they do the best they could with what life had given them? Then your shame is all in your own head, dude. Contrary to what some politicians want to tell us, poverty is not a crime.
They should all be cleaned off the streets, washed away like dirt. The formula has to be ionized. I learned that in David's notes.
Carl, dude, I can't let you do this!
It's plain to see he's crazy. I have a feeling this wasn't the first time he experimented on himself. Now he has Tina tied to a chair while he makes the machinery go beep, beep, boop.
What do you think?
What do I think? I think I'd really like to talk to Stan Ivar, the actor, and ask him what that was like. Tina thinks she's horrified. I still don't get how this is an improvement over a regular human.
Carl, for God's sake, listen to me, please. You don't know what you're doing. And if you care about me, which I believe you did once...
Oh, he's way past that. Then again, how would you like to be the bride of Frankenstein?
And if you're ever a friend of David's, please, I'm begging you, stop. Because this killed him. And it will kill you too.
You don't understand. But you will.
No!
You're really grossing me out, Tanner.
Trust me, Carl, she would not look good as a Chucky doll. And now it's time for a case of wrong priorities. Barry, go back and reread your fairy tales. The sequence is slay the dragon, then rescue the damsel in distress. When you do it out of order, that happens. Carl is now able to fulfill his fondest dream, wipe out homeless people. Go do harm to people who have done nothing wrong except have the bad fortune to be poor. My wife and I have been homeless. We had been married less than 3 years when it happened. We stayed with some friends, but that lasted about a week. We had no money and no jobs. I was in school, and when I went to the school for help, they offered us a car. We had a car. What we needed was a roof over our heads. The church we were going to at the time had let us store our belongings in their basement, and finally, in desperation, we moved down there with our stuff. I'm not sure how many people knew it because we made a point of clearing out in the morning before anybody got there. Thing is, the other thing we couldn't afford now was birth control, so our first child was conceived down there. We call her our holy child. Some heavy borrowing from relatives, and we were able to buy a little rat hole trailer, mobile home, for a minimal price. We were homeless for less than a year, but it showed us many, many things. And incidentally, if you have a different opinion, let me make this clear. I don't care. You're wrong, and I'm not going to argue with you. Comments of that nature will not get posted. This is not a debate. This is one man's rant, period. Because I know there are way too many people in this country who would do this if they got the chance. His parents were poor, he's ashamed of it, so he's punishing these people. But now Barry knows how to deal with him. He used a revolutionary new battle tactic called don't stand there while he hits you, get out of the way. Soon enough, the monster changes back to Carl.
Leave me alone. Don't come near me.
Is he dead? We don't know. Will the police bring enough ambulances to deal with all the people he hurt? We don't know that either. This is as powerful a story as I've seen on the subject, and it's only the first episode of the series. More generally, as the Flash, Barry makes mistakes. The accident gave him this ability, but it didn't give him the knowledge to use it to its fullest effect. We see him figuring that out as he goes along. He's growing. I didn't show it, but he and Tina actually decided to part ways at one point here. His abilities cause conflict with her sometimes because they're both trying to sort it all out. She's concerned about what his abilities are doing to his body, while he thinks his abilities make him pretty well untouchable. Every time he gets knocked on his can, he rediscovers that he's not, but that part hasn't sunk in yet. This is well written, well acted, and the effects, I don't know what to say. I am loving this, and I really hope somewhere along the way I can sort out why it didn't catch on, because I don't see any reason for it.
Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying my look at The Flash. If you like it, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. If you really like it, consider becoming a patron. $2 a month gets you extra content like Hogan's Heroes and It's About Time. $5 a month gets you that and more, so take a look. The link is down there in the description. I also do lots of other stuff, so take a moment to look it over. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
He's probably on a lasagna break. You're arrogant, but good grief. He has his... We stayed with them... Man, that sentence absolutely fell apart.